Good morning, and welcome to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you to Talk of the Town for this Friday, June the 5th. Glad to be with you. My name is Gary Stevens. We will have a sliver of open line time after the 10 o'clock news today. We will also have Patty Vandenberg in about an hour. What's new around Holland? The president of the Community Foundation of the Holland Zeeland area, Bret Groendyke, will be joining us a little after 10:30 with his monthly update. And a little after 11 o'clock, we will be hearing from Governor Gretchen Whitmer, along with the state's chief medical officer, Dr. Janae Caldoun, about some possible further easing of the Safer at Home executive order that was scheduled to expire next Friday. But already some of the restrictions have been lifted and more may be on the way. We will see. We will see. But in our first half hour, we spotlight on the first Friday of the month, the Holland Department of Public Safety, and we move to fire operations today with the Fire Marshal of the City of Holland, Bret Groendyke. He joins us via the Zoom connection today. Bret, good morning, and welcome back to Talk of the Town.
Good morning, Gary. Thank you for having me.
Glad you are with us. And if you have a question for Bret, no, we will not be giving out the password for the Zoom connection. You can join us like everybody else over the phone at 395-1450, 395-1450. I'm not going to ask you, Bret, to talk or take a political stand on anything, but I will say this. Hopefully, the residents in the city of Holland, which you are overseeing as the fire marshal, and other places where our voices can be heard, hopefully what we have done while we've been trying to stay home, stay safe, is to make sure that our home is safe in terms of fire hazards, and make sure the alarms are okay, and make sure that we have a safe route if we have a fire situation. This is as good as time as any over the past 3 months to get those safety orders for home in order.
I couldn't agree more. And with us being home more, now would be a good time to be able to practice those things, as we can stay home and check our smoke alarms. And as always, we remind that there should be one on every level of the home. And then we should be checking those at least once a month, cleaning around them, making sure that there's good functional batteries in there once every 6 months, and maintaining at least, hopefully, a fire extinguisher in the home also.
And those extinguishers need to be checked too. Maybe not on a commercial level, like, we have extinguishers here and it has to be checked every year, or in a rental unit needs to be professionally checked, but still to make sure that it is up to snuff, so that when you do need it, it's not, there's some issues there.
Yes, the level should be in the green on those extinguishers. And it's never a bad idea to give them a shake every here and there to make sure that the extinguishing agent in there doesn't cake up or sit on the bottom or anything like that. So good to keep them moving every here and there.
Yes, indeed. One other thing too about home security or home safety with fires. Are we getting to a point now? I know that for those of us who have, we're on a budget and we have to sort of allocate our resources properly. Sometimes we might skimp on getting the most economical a smoke detector possible. But in this case, are we getting to the point now where if we don't have one that is, shall we say, connected electrically, so that, there's both battery and electrical power, that basically we're running a little on the dangerous side in that regard?
But ideally, you want them to be interconnected through some fashion. And there are Wi-Fi wireless systems that folks are getting for their homes. And I had the opportunity to put a couple of those in, or at least assist with putting those in folks' homes last year. And that was really interesting. I wasn't fully aware, and I had to educate myself on learning about these systems. So even if it's too difficult to hardwire an entire system through your home, there are other ways to make sure that those alarms are interconnected, because you wouldn't want to be in a situation where ideally, again, you have a smoke alarm where you're sleeping, But if there were an incident in another part of the house, let's say the basement, you would want that that alarm to notify the alarm where it is that you're sleeping to wake you up and get you out.
Yeah, the interconnecting is part of it. Also, the smoke detectors, we call it smoke and smoke inhalation, but more and more these detectors are carbon monoxide detectors, which are, it's odorless. We don't know it's there until might be a little bit too late.
Yeah, and there are units that are both combined carbon monoxide monitoring and smoke or a smoke detecting system. And it's interesting that you talk about smoke as dangerous as it is. It's the toxicity of it that we try to educate folks on as much as we can. And the two most dangerous parts of smoke are hydrogen cyanide and carbon monoxide. And that's why you have those systems in your house. The things that burn in your home will liberate carbon monoxide and hydrogen cyanide, and those are two very toxic gases. And those smoke alarms are there to get you away from those components of smoke. It's extremely toxic.
If you got a question for Holland Fire Marshal Bret Groendyke about fire safety and staying safe this summer in the upcoming months, he'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Brent, it looks as if we're going to be starting to enjoy the outdoors more and more, but that also comes with some safety concerns in terms of dealing with fire. Tell us about some of the concerns that we should have if we are going to be outdoors and maybe enjoying a barbecue, a cookout, or some campfire stuff. There are some safety things to keep in mind.
Sure. Anytime you're going to be having any open flame or recreational fires outside, especially with decks, it's a good idea to not have your grill anywhere right up close to your house. There should not be any grilling on, let's say, balconies at condo complexes. We don't want grills on there. The concern being that you can overheat the deck or overheat the siding and cause a fire that way. And the same goes for even if you're in your own home or even on your own deck. If you have those grills and you're doing any sort of cooking, make sure it's far away from your home. Make sure that it's not in a place where you would maybe accidentally leave it on or walk away. I mean, sometimes that steak looks so good. You just want to get in and start having that and corn, and then you just, you leave it on. And then, a little while later, you start melting the siding off your house or anything like that.
And we're not only and what I was going to interrupt and say is that we're not only talking about charcoal grills, but also the propane grills as well.
Sure. Yeah. They still generate heat. They still generate the risk of fire or extension of fire from those objects onto the side of your house or anything like that. When we're talking campfires or anything like that, it's never, make sure that it's out. If you have a campfire or a contained fire in a portable unit, make sure that those ashes are out. In my career, I have seen a lot of folks that have taken that stuff and then they throw it away in a plastic container with a lot of other refuse, and they don't necessarily confirm that those ashes are all the way out, and we wind up with garage fires, and we've seen that a lot. And it really breaks your heart when you see people lose things, and it would just take that one moment of prevention to make sure that that fire was out. I mean, who doesn't want to have a campfire? But doing it responsibly is the best way to go.
And of course, when you're dealing with fire, I'm sorry, even though we as man can be able to put our, we can control it, but it is still a flame. It is still something that could be dangerous. It's just like electricity. You still got to play it safe.
True. Yeah. Anything can get away from us if we got to be responsible about these sort of things. So anything where you pose a risk to yourself or your family, your neighbors, your home, etc. That's what we want to try to have a little bit of prevention and a little bit of proactivity about.
395-1450, 395-1450. If you have a question for Bret Groendyke, he is the fire marshal for the city of Holland. He'll take your fire safety questions at 395-1450. Talk a little bit about the importance, Brent, of a escape plan for your home, even if, shall we say, the home is maybe a 2-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment, or it's, it's one of those small homes. Even the smallest of homes should have an escape plan.
Absolutely. And we saw that demonstrated on Monday morning. We had a apartment fire at 791 East 16th. Fortunately, everybody was able to evacuate that building safely during the fire. But we did have reports in the early going that there may have been folks trapped in that building. And that definitely changes our response dynamic. It changes our priorities in terms of what we're going to make our immediate efforts on when we get on scene. So to your point, Gary, it doesn't matter where we live, no matter the size of our house. When it's 3 o'clock in the morning and the lights don't work because it may be an electrical fire and your home's full of smoke and you can't see and it's disorienting. That's why we have these plans. I'm in my home, which, I mean, imagine if Marconi could see us now, the way that we're communicating, but I'm in my home and I've got an escape plan too here. It's if I were to go to my door in my bedroom and find that I couldn't evacuate this way, that I would go out my window. You always need to have 2 ways out of your house. And it's so important that people practice that. And that just like that condo, or pardon me, the apartment building that we had that fire in, there's 2 separate stairwells for people to evacuate down. Because if they can't get out one way, they can at least get out the other. And so even if you're on the 3rd floor of an apartment building, you have 2 options to get out of that building.
Unfortunately, not all buildings have that relatively newer options. Let's put it this way. There are some older structures that only have the 1 stairwell, and that makes an exit plan even a little bit more problematic.
It can, but we prepare and we plan for those things. So kind of going back to that apartment building fire that we talked about, that's a complex that we pre-plan frequently. Our officer staff and our firefighters go through those complexes, and even if we're on a medical call or anything like that, we have those discussions in the engine. Well, what would we do now if this happened, or what would we do if we couldn't access the building because people parked in certain places, or because maybe a dumpster was put in a certain location. And that wasn't the case at this fire. But regardless, anytime we're out in the community as firefighters, we're looking at buildings and we're thinking about that 4 a.m. fire. And that, again, is what happened on Monday. But because of some pre-planning and some engineered things into that building, fire stops, fire breaks, and good early suppression, we were able to affect a good stop on that fire. So even after it gets going, the roof was still intact by the time that we were able to get there and get a stop on it. And the crews did an awesome job. And that's a testament to training, and that's a testament to pre-planning and preparing for these things when they happen, and they do. And so we try to do everything we can to stay ready for people.
395-1450 if you have a question for Holland Fire Marshal Bret Groendyke. And let's talk about not so much specifically that fire call from Monday, but a normal fire call when maybe, a lot of the Holland forces is going to be responding to a Holland situation. We find that, say, Graskup and Hamilton or Park Township or some other fire department steps in to assist in that regard. Talk a little bit about the reciprocal agreement between the neighboring departments. If one has to fight a fire, another comes in to cover in case there's some more issues in that same community.
Yeah, you're right. And we appreciate as the firefighting community being able to help one another out. When these fires happen, they're incredibly intensive. It takes a lot of men and women to work to bring these things under control, and a lot of resources get brought to bear. So in the case of the fire that we had on Monday, Graskup Fire Department was covering calls for our community. Park Township Fire Department came to the scene. Holland Township came to the scene. Zeeland City came to the scene. Hamilton, they sent crews in to help too. So anytime we get a fire, there are significant challenges to overcome. We got to get suppression done. We got to make sure we can, if there's any people that are trapped, if there's any medical care that needs to be rendered to those people after they've been rescued due to smoke inhalation concerns. There's a ton of resources and a ton of labor intensive things that need to be done. And so we reach out to our neighbors and we bring people in and we do whatever it takes to get things controlled and bring some order to a fire that's grown out of control at that point. So
if you got a question for Bret Groendyke, you'll take it at 395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with the Holland Fire Marshal.
Yes, I wondered if you could comment on something. I had heard that there's a possibility of starting a fire in a car if you have the antibacterial lotion or soap, the hand cleaner. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
All right, let's get the answer, Bret.
So I did see that item, and we had some discussion internally at the department about that. And there's a reason why we investigate things is to try to get an answer, and not to go too much back to 791 E16, but there's a lot of things that were in that fire that were originally discussed, and then through evidence, it kind of turns out that's not the case. And to go back to the caller's question, with that, we want to know, okay, what was it that started that particular fire? Did somebody have an open flame in there? Did somebody have, was somebody using a lighter? Was somebody using, there's a lot of questions that go to that. And so we always kind of caution that just because we see something somewhere and see a photo, there's an investigation that takes place into anything like that. And sometimes those things take time. And in our current state, just like you and I are communicating right now, Gary, it's everybody, you can exchange information right now through a photo or anything, but sometimes it takes time to make a determination on that. So based on the photo and based on what I've seen, anything is going to take some investigation to make a determination on.
But the thing is, and caller, I hope you're still with me on this. You were asking about the hand sanitizers because that has some alcohol content, could possibly be a fire hazard.
Yeah, correct.
All right. In that regard, then, like anything with alcohol, that could be a problem there, Bret.
It could be, but again, there's a lot of hand sanitizers and alcohol, and this has been around for quite a while. And so just our first take on seeing that was, okay, what was it that occurred? Did somebody else have something else they were doing, or it's an unusual situation, I will say that. And we, in our careers, we all see a lot of unusual situations, and things that you didn't think were possible the day before, you suddenly find out are very possible the next day. So anything can happen, but it's important to investigate things like that and then follow the conclusions that are made based on the evidence.
Okay, hopefully that answers your question.
No, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you very much for the call. 395-1450, 395-1450. If you have a question for Holland Fire Marshal Bret Groendyke, today is June the 5th. In approximately 29 days, it's July the 4th, and fireworks certainly a concern about handling them safely and making sure that you enjoy the day instead of having to spend some time in the emergency room because of a mishap handling fireworks.
Yeah, we see it every year. The past 2 years, we've had a couple of fires, building fires, where we could not rule out that fireworks were not involved with those fires. The key thing here is being reasonable with the use of these fireworks. Don't use them when you're intoxicated. Don't let your kids shoot them off. People should be supervised when they're doing these sorts of things. And any fireworks that you are lighting off, make sure that they're completely out before you dispose of them. Kind of going back to what we talked about earlier with making sure your fire pit ashes were out. Extinguish them, use water, make sure that the debris is out. We don't want to see anything that's still hot get put in a plastic container with a bunch of other lightweight plastics and see somebody lose a building or a home or anything like that. So that's a concern.
The other thing too, Brent, is the fact that we're not only talking about fireworks that could, shooting off Roman candles and stuff that is propelled, but even the sparklers. We're talking about something that, the kids can handle it, but the heat from the sparkler is like 100 degrees or something like that. That could cause problems too.
But yeah, it's extremely hot. In my career, I've never seen burns or kids get burned from that. I know that it's something that's happened or other people encountered. The majority of things that I've seen related to fireworks use have been building fires. And I can think of a handful that I've seen occur because of the improper use of fireworks. People shoot them off too close to houses. People shoot them at houses. So things like that. People have to keep some distance. Especially the projectiles or any of the mortar style fireworks, once those are going, I mean, you have to be, you can't really stop them once they're going, once you got the mortars going. So be very mindful of that. Definitely a significant caution to be taken there.
Yeah, some might even say leave the fireworks to the professionals, but even professionals sometimes have issues. Even the most seasoned of professionals sometimes has issues. By the way, we got a note from one of our listeners about the concerns we had, and you were talking about the fire earlier this week and the possible causes of it, and who knows. Theoretical question then, it was brought up by a listener. In this day where we're trying to be, safe at home and have a safe environment, some people do have the hand sanitizer stashed in their vehicles and driving around. Sure. Just so that they can clean themselves off if they have to put gas in the car or something like that. Could that be a problem as temperatures in vehicles get over 100 degrees, especially in the summer?
So again, with my knowledge that I have, the two of us talking right now, I've seen the article. I always have a lot more questions of, okay, what was it that caused that particular fire? There's a degree of investigation that goes into anything like that. And again, it should be noted that people keeping hand sanitizer in their vehicles is not new, just in the past few months. And it would be a thought of mine that if something like that had been happening, that we would have heard about it prior to this. So again, you always want more evidence. You want more evidence to be able to support any type of claim that's made. And I caution everybody on things like that. So
let's go with the simple final thing. Where can people go to get maybe the best evidence or the best knowledge of what could be considered issues they need to worry about at home? We only got about a half minute to talk about it.
In terms of like home safety side things, Michigan Fire Inspector Society, they have a lot of good resources on their website, MFIS. They have a lot of really great resources on home fire safety, having a plan, developing a plan. American Red Cross, they have that also. There's a lot of good resources, a lot of good internet-based platforms that offer that. So.
Bret Groendyke from the Holland Department of Public Safety, the fire marshal for the Tulip City. I want to thank you very much for joining us today on WHTC's Talk of the Town. Wish you and all with the department well, and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
And thank you for the opportunity, Gary. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Bret Groendyke on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. CBS News is next on the hour.